This is a story about a beautiful woman named Ada, who lost her life because of her endearing love for her husband and children. Ada is a beautiful woman who got married at a young age to a man named Emeka. Emeka had been married before but got divorced for some unclear reasons that he was blamed for. Ada and Emeka has 2 children, Ngozi and Obinna. Ada and Emeka had relocated to the village after Emeka lost his job in Lagos. Ever since then, Emeka had not been able to get another job, or at least something that is more sustainable for his family. Ada, being a supportive wife, sells foodstuff in the market, but it still wasn't enough to pay the children's school fees. She got introduced into a catering job where she assists other women to cook for events. Sometimes, she comes home late after her cooking job, since her husband does not support her to sleep outside the house, and she also needed to come home and take care of the children. Emeka has never been okay with her new job, as he believes that her late nights have something to do with men. And he claims to have heard rumors around town of Ada frolicking with other men. One day, Ada came home exhausted after her cooking job with food stains all over her catering uniform. Emeka sat in the kitchen with a half-empty bottle of alcohol in front of him. The air around him was thick with anger. His fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His eyes dark and piercing, following Ada's every move, burning with a mix of suspicion and rage. Ada avoided his gaze, her hands trembling slightly as she moved toward the sink. She could feel the tension in the room, a storm waiting to erupt. She had been through this before. The accusations, the shouting, the endless cycle of mistrust. But tonight felt different. The air was heavier, the silence more suffocating. Without warning, Emeka slammed his hand on the table, demanding to know where she had been. He accused her of lying, sneaking around, and betraying him. Ada tried to explain where she had been and gestured to the food stains on her uniform. She told him about the extra shifts she had taken to help make ends meet. But her words fell on deaf ears. Emeka's face twisted with rage. He called her a liar, a cheat, and a disgrace as he stepped closer, with his finger jabbing toward her. Ada backed away, her hands raised defensively. Tears welled in her eyes, but she fought to keep her voice steady. She pleaded with him to believe her, to see the truth. But the more she spoke, the angrier he became. His eyes were wild, his breath heavy with the scent of alcohol. He grabbed her arm with a tight and painful grip and pulled her closer. Ada cried out, her voice breaking as she begged him to let her go. Emeka's rage grew, and he stormed out of the kitchen, while Ada sank into a chair, her body trembling as she sobbed silently. She had seen this side of him before, the side that turned cold and sought to punish her for any slightest mistakes. Emeka returned, holding a jerry can of petrol. Ada's eyes widened in terror as she realized what he was about to do. She tried to back away, but her legs felt like lead. The smell of petrol filled the room as Emeka poured it over her, drenching her clothes and hair. Ada screamed, her voice raw with panic, but Emeka's face remained cold and unfeeling. He struck a match, the small flame flickering in his trembling hand. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Ada's eyes met his, pleading for mercy, but there was none to be found. Emeka threw the match, and the room erupted in flames. Ada's screams pierced the air as the fire consumed her, its hungry flames licking at her skin, devouring everything in their path. Emeka stumbled back, his face now blank with shock, as if he had come to the reality of what he had done. Neighbors rushed to the scene, their faces filled with horror as they saw the burning house. They quenched the fire on Ada's body with some water, but much damage had already been done to her skin, as Ada's face was beyond recognition from the beautiful Ada they used to know. She was immediately rushed to the hospital. Emeka was arrested, his face pale and expressionless as the police led him away. The children, Ngozi and Obinna, were filled with shock over the traumatic experience as they cried for their mum. A social worker knelt beside them, trying to offer comfort, but there were no words that could ease their pain. At the hospital, Ada's body was wrapped in bandages, her breathing shallow. The nurses worked tirelessly, but it was clear she wouldn't survive. In her final moments, Ada reached for a nurse, her hand trembling as she struggled to speak. Tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered her final words, a plea for her children, a warning to others, a lament for the life she had lost because she was trying to keep her marriage. A loud silence engulfed the room as she breathed her last. In the days that followed, Emeka sat in the prison cell with his head in his hands. The reality of what he had done haunted him, as his mind replayed the events over and over with Mercy, a counselor sitting across from him. They spoke of accountability, of change, of the possibility of redemption. As Emeka's sobs echoed through the small room, filled with regrets and feeling of suicide, the community gathered to mourn Ada. An activist stood at a podium and spoke about the dangers of abusive relationships. They urged others to seek help, to leave before it was too late, to remember that love should never cost a life. Ada's story became a beacon, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of love that nurtures rather than destroys.